Hey everyone, I'm Mark Hespin here, host of On the Mark on News Talk 1070 KHMO and the KHMO app. Follow me on YouTube. Subscribe here to the YouTube channel at Mark Hespin. So if you like the stuff, please subscribe. Appreciate it. You can also follow me on Twitter, Instagram at Mark Hespin, X at Mark Hespin, MarkHespen. Follow my show every Saturday mornings. You can listen to it on News Talk 1070 KHMO, 9:05 sharp. Follow the show on Facebook. Just search On the Mark KHMO on Facebook. All right, post Week 8 power rankings in the NFL, plus the trade deadline. We already had some big moves today. My Bears getting involved. The Niners just got involved with Chase Young. We'll wrap up the power rankings episode with a couple quick thoughts on the trade deadline moves so far in the NFL, including the Vikings going after a quarterback. All my thoughts. But let's get into it, as we always do, the post Week 8 power rankings here on this Halloween spooky season. Repping the pumpkin shirt here. It's scary for me as a Bears fan just in general. And so let's jump into it. Number 10, Seattle. Welcome back to the power rankings, Seattle Seahawks. They're coming in at number 10 this week. Listen, they're finding ways to win some close games here as of late. And I'll say this about Seattle. The weapons, they speak for themselves. Jackson Smith-Njigba really got himself going into the offense for the first time. I think the Seattle team is a sneaky NFC championship type of game team. The NFC, we know, it's top-heavy. Beyond the Phillies, the Niners, Detroit, it's a lot of pick your poison, right? Right now, I like Seattle more than I like Dallas, more than I like anyone in the NFC South. More than I like anyone else in the NFC North. Maybe Minnesota if you had a healthy Kirk Cousins. But Seattle comes in at number 10. Right ahead of them, the 49ers. They continue to plummet down the power rankings. 3 losses in a row. They're at number 9 spot this week. Listen, I'll say this about the 49ers. We'll get into the trade move they just made for Chase Young. Overall, I'm really concerned about the overall play of the team. This is a team that had been flying high. Everyone was talking about how Purdy had not lost a regular season game. Now they've lost 3 in a row. Did they rush Purdy back? He looked very, very overwhelmed at times from the Bengals. The Bengals are a good team. They're really finding their mojo. But let's be honest. You watched that game, Burrow versus Purdy. One of those quarterbacks looked like a $300 million man who can lead you to a Super Bowl. The other one looked like just a guy. And that is the concern with the 49ers right now. To me, they're still absolutely an NFC championship team. They are absolutely capable of making an NFC championship. But to this morning, do I feel like the Niners are capable of beating whoever they face in an NFC championship game, especially now that they may be on the road for that game? Not so much. The Bills at number 8. They stayed flat for this week. Listen, a nice win, getting things right going for them. The Bills, I'm just surprised they've been so quiet at the trade deadline today, honestly. I've been saying it the last couple of weeks. They need to be aggressive. They're a team that has holes. They have the quarterback. They have some great weapons on offense. Dalton Kincaid starting to get going. You got to feel good about that if you're a Bills fan. But are they in the upper echelon of the AFC right now? I don't think so. In order for the Bills to make an AFC championship game, they're going to have some special play from their special quarterback. It's possible they can do it. But they're going to rely a lot on Josh Allen, looks like, here down the stretch. Bengals at number 7, moving up 2 spots to the number 7 spot. A really impressive win on the road against the San Francisco 49ers. Joe Burrow, this is really a Joe Burrow ranking. He looks like the best quarterback in football right now, especially after last week. He's finally healthy. He's moving. He's making plays. He's finding Jamar Chase. Everyone's happy. And the Cincinnati Bengals are rolling right now. They started slow, 1-3, and here they find themselves not yet technically in the playoffs in the AFC, which is crazy. It just goes to show how deep the AFC is. But this morning would have shocked me if the Cincinnati Bengals are in an AFC championship game. Absolutely not with the way they're playing football. Dolphins just ahead of them at number 6. Huge week for the Dolphins. Nice win, but now all the focus is on Kansas City. And not only did they have to deal with Kansas City and the Chiefs, the first real great test for the Dolphins since they played the Bills, they got to play them in Frankfurt. If the Dolphins can find a way to win this game and look really good doing it, they're going to skyrocket up these power rankings. This is what we've been waiting for as fans of football, trying to analyze the Dolphins, is how do they stack up against the elite of the elite? We know they can put up 70 burgers, 50 burgers on bad teams, right? We've seen it happen. What can they do against really elite teams at the top of the AFC? We're going to get a chance to see that this week. Tua's playing good. Overall, Miami is just an offensive juggernaut. We know that. Can the defense become elite? And what can they do against the best teams? Lions, number 5, staying at number 5 again this week. A great win on Monday Night Football against a really inferior opponent. So how do you take that? Well, you take it with a grain of salt because they got blown out last week against a really good team. And then they come out and they blow out a really bad team. So are the Lions elite? Right on that border. I think it depends on where they're playing and who they're playing and how healthy they are. Jahmyr Gibbs, welcome to the NFL. Big showing. I've been one of those people who keeps telling Lions fans not to panic on Jahmyr Gibbs. Yeah, I know the fantasy people can freak out all they want. But overall, actual football, not fantasy football, this is exactly what you wanted the Lions to with Jahmyr Gibbs. When you need him, he is an absolute weapon in the backfield, out of the backfield, receiving. And if you can get now Montgomery healthy with this type of Jahmyr Gibbs production, that offensive line for the Lions is impressive when they're rolling. Lions, 5th best team in football right now. Ahead of the Lions, 3 really good AFC teams and a juggernaut in the NFC. So let's get into it. Jaguars, number 4. I don't have them moving. Again, the Jaguars taking care of business, looking really good. I think the Jaguars are a team that right now are finding a real groove. I mean, ATN is, talk about monster weapons right now. Is there a better running back weapon in the NFL than Travis Etienne? I don't know. It's tough to find one. Receiving out of the backfield, laser darts from Trevor Lawrence, Etienne on big routes. Love the Jaguars. They're at number 4. Ravens at number 3. I want to put the Ravens higher. The problem is the 2 teams ahead of them, I just feel more confident about them right now. The Ravens, if they didn't have the drops and that ugly loss to Pittsburgh, they'd absolutely be at top of the power rankings. But those things happen. They exist. I've seen it happen. So that worries me a little bit with the Ravens. But offensively, they're really starting to find a rhythm. Gus Edwards is just touchdown after touchdown after touchdown. The relationship between Lamar Jackson's wide receivers are growing, and it's making Andrews better. This offense is starting to feel like the Chiefs offense a couple years ago where it's like, oh my gosh, these wide receivers, Zay Flowers, OBJ, and Mark Andrews, Andrews starting to become like that kind of second, third option for this Ravens offense as opposed to the first option is great for Lamar Jackson. He's finding him in open spaces, and this Ravens offense is moving, and the defense is terrific. Chiefs, they fall a spot to number 2 this week. Listen, I always say this about divisional games. Divisional games are tough. It's hard to win divisional games. The Chiefs did something that very, very few teams do, winning 16, 15 straight games against a divisional opponent. They were eventually going to lose to the Broncos. They lost in a game where Mahomes felt like poo-poo, and they lost on the road and against a desperate Denver Broncos team. I'm not panicking if I am the Chiefs. I will say this. The Chiefs need to figure out the wide receiver core. Now it feels like they have just too many guys. Give me the lineup. Who are the guys? Who's the 1? Who's the 2? Who's the 3? You get Hartman back in there, Mecole Hardman. Let's get rid of the Tonys and all the other experimental guys, the Sky Moores that just don't feel like they're working. Play Rice, play Mecole Hardman. Who's that number 3 guy? And Travis Kelce. Roll with that. Build confidence and chemistry with that. Stop it with having like 6, 7, 8 wide receivers and just a bunch of guys Mahomes to throw to. Let's create a depth chart, consistency, and grow with it. That's the only concern I see with the Chiefs right now. Eagles back up to number 1. Listen, they took the best shot from the Commanders again, and they stood with it. The only thing I'm concerned about with the Eagles right now is the soreness in the knee with Jalen Hurts. Otherwise, playing really solid football, finding ways to win in different ways. I still don't think the defense has played their best game yet, and they have a lot of stud talent on that defense. Offensive line, I think, can still play their best football. So a lot of upside still with the Eagles, and they're the number 1 team in the power rankings. 3 big moves at the trade deadline. Let's go through them. Montez Sweat, the Bears trade a second rounder for Sweat from the Washington Commanders. Let's be honest about it. There's some things to be frustrated about. If you really like him, why not just go get him in free agency? You have the most cap space to spend anyways. But if you really like him that much, maybe you don't want to risk that you go somewhere else and you get him in the building, you get to negotiate, and you get to show him you love him, you want him, and now maybe you can get a really nice deal as opposed to having to overpay for him. If that's the case, I can understand paying a prime time pick, a second round or a high second round pick for a guy you really believe in. Sweat is an older player, but he's a more reliable player than Chase Young. Do I love it? No. If Sweat comes out and has a great second half to the season, and you get him in a really nice contract, I'm going to like it a lot more. So, let's see how it plays out. Ryan Poles clearly has the faith from the organization. He wouldn't be allowed to be trading second-round picks if he didn't have faith in the organization. I think this spells almost, good news, bad news for Bears fans. I think it's good news in the fact that we're going to get to see what he's got. We're going to get to see production, and we need a pass rush. I think the bad news is I think it means they're believing in Eberflus and trying to give him players for his system when we all want Eberflus gone. The other thing I say a lot with bad teams, you got to bring in talent. You need talent. The Bears need A and B players. This is a solid B plus, A minus player, depending on what you can get out of them in your scheme, can be an A minus player. The Bears are a team that needs more of them. So you got to look at it as a positive in that way. Wait and see approach. It feels a little bit like Groundhog's Day, trade deadline again, trading a second rounder for a little bit of you kind of hope and maybe make it work out. Sweat's obviously right now a more consistent, better player than Claypool's been, so we'll give him that. Let's talk about the quarterback move. Dobbs going to Minnesota. I think for Minnesota, this is a little bit of we need to show our fan base that we're trying while also losing games. Josh Dobbs is the tank quarterback in the NFL right now. Look how great he's done for tanking for Arizona. They have the number 1 pick. And I think he can do that for Minnesota. He can be competent. He can help their wide receivers and feel a little confident. Like, no, we went for it. We've got Josh Dobbs. We're trying to make it work. While also secretly, wink, wink, trying to find a way to work into the top 5 picks and get their quarterback of the future if you're the Minnesota Vikings. So I like the move. They basically gave up nothing to get him, swapping a 7th rounder for a 6th rounder, basically getting a 7th rounder in return, and while also showing your fan base you're trying while understanding that the tank is on if you're Minnesota, and it should be on. Go get your quarterback of the future to pair with that stud of weapons you have in Hockenson, Justin Jefferson, and Addison. Finally, as of right now, 2:29 Central Time on this Halloween, as far as the Chase Claypool move as the Chase Young move goes, this feels like an absolute rental for San Francisco. If he balls out and he's amazing and helps them win a Super Bowl, well, maybe they do find a way to get him to a deal and they keep build around him with the rookie quarterback who they're paying nothing to, the young quarterback they're paying nothing to, and Purdy. But it feels like an absolute all-in rental move. Stop the bleeding, get control of our organization, get control of our defense, invest in Chase Young. And for Chase Young, it's a absolute ball out in this system, and you can get paid big money in the offseason, whether it's San Francisco or somewhere else. So again, it's really a win-win for them. Commanders, what do they do on the other end? Getting a 2nd and a 3rd for 2 elite pass rushers. Looks like the Commanders are realizing, hey, we need to go all in the tank mode. On defense, while still supporting Sam Howell to see if he's our quarterback of the future, knowing that we want to see our quarterback produce to see if he's a quarterback of the future while also trying to lose games. It's a lot to take in. I might have to do another video this week before we hit the show. Saturday morning on the Mark News Talk 1070 KHMO. Subscribe to the YouTube on the Mark Hespin if you're watching now. Appreciate it. Follow me on X, Instagram at Mark Hespen, MarkHespen. Bear down.